Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UCS horizon, watching the stars shimmer through the viewport. 3 years had passed since humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel, and now they were about to make history. The ship carried Earth's first diplomatic mission to contact alien life beyond their solar system. Lisa Carter walked up beside him holding her tablet. She was the ship's best scientist and had spent months preparing for this moment. Her hands shook slightly as she checked the readings again. The sensors had detected something massive ahead of them. "Commander, we're picking up multiple ships," Lisa said quietly. "They're huge, much bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake nodded and turned to face his crew. 24 people had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never return home. Each person on board represented the best humanity had to offer. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, and soldiers all working together for one goal. "All stations report ready," called out Lieutenant Ben Hayes from his position at communications. Ben was young but smart. He had learned 12 different languages just for this mission. His job was to try talking to whoever they found out here. The alien ships appeared on their screens like floating cities made of crystal and metal. They moved with perfect coordination and formations that looked almost like art. The horizon was tiny compared to them, like a rowboat next to an aircraft carrier. "Incoming transmission," Ben announced. His voice carried excitement and fear at the same time. "It's coming through on multiple frequencies. They want to talk." Jake straightened his uniform. Everything they had trained for came down to this moment. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed something incredible. The alien looked like a tall, thin person made of light and shadow. Its face had no eyes that Jake could see, but somehow he felt like it was looking right at him. When it spoke, the words appeared in perfect English on their screens. "Greetings, beings of Earth. We are Vexthara of the Zephyrian Collective. We have watched your species from afar. You have achieved interstellar travel and seek contact with other civilizations." Jake stepped forward. "I am Commander Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth Government. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." The alien's form shifted slightly. "Peace is what we offer all species who prove worthy. However, we must first understand your true nature. This is required by collective law." Lisa looked at Jake with concern. She had studied every first contact scenario they could imagine. But this felt different. The alien's tone seemed cold despite the polite words. "We consent to your examination," Jake replied. "What do you need from us?" "We will scan your minds to understand your species' history and nature. This will cause no harm but will reveal all that you are." Jake felt his heart pound. They had discussed this possibility but hoped it would not happen so quickly. He looked around at his crew. Each person nodded their agreement. They had come too far to turn back now. The scanning began without warning. Jake felt something touch his thoughts like cold fingers moving through his memories. Around him, his crew stood frozen as the aliens examined their minds. The process lasted only seconds but felt like hours. When it ended, the alien on the screen had changed. Its form appeared darker and more solid. When it spoke again, its voice carried disgust and horror. "We have seen what you are," Vexthara said. "Your species is filled with violence and cruelty. Your history is written in blood. You wage war against your own kind. You destroy your planet. You create weapons designed only to kill. You are monsters." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "We have made mistakes, but we have also done great things. We create art and music. We help each other. We explore space to find friends, not enemies. Your art cannot hide your true nature. We have seen your wars. We have seen your hate. We have seen how you torture and murder for pleasure. No species like yours has ever been allowed into the collective." Lisa stepped beside Jake. "Every species has a dark past. What matters is how we grow and change. Humans today are better than humans from centuries ago. We came here seeking peace." The alien's form grew larger on the screen. "You cannot change what you are. Monsters remain monsters regardless of their words. The collective has made its decision." More aliens appeared on screen. They looked different from Vexthara, but all carried the same expression of disgust and fear. Jake realized they were looking at representatives from many species, all united against humanity. "We offer you one chance," Vexthara continued. "Submit to genetic modification. We will remove the violence from your species. We will make you peaceful like us. You will be allowed to exist under our guidance." The bridge fell silent. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same thought in every face. What the aliens offered was not salvation but the end of humanity as they knew it. We refuse, Jake said firmly. We will not let you change who we are. We are humans, both good and bad, and we choose to remain human. The aliens on screen recoiled as if Jake had struck them. Then you have chosen extinction. Your species will be quarantined from the galaxy. You will remain trapped in your system until you die out naturally. This is our mercy to you. Alarms began blaring as enemy ships moved toward the horizon. Ben shouted from his station. Multiple contacts closing fast. They're powering weapons. Jake grabbed the ship's intercom. All hands prepare for emergency jump to Earth. This is not a drill. The ship shuddered as alien weapons struck their shields. Lisa worked frantically at her console trying to plot a course home while Ben sent out distress signals on all frequencies. Jump drive ready, called out the chief engineer from below decks. Execute jump. Now, Jake ordered. The stars streaked past as the horizon leaped toward home carrying news that would change everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, but they were also no longer welcome in it. As Earth grew larger on their screens, Jake wondered what would come next. The aliens had called them monsters, and perhaps in some ways they were right. But if being human meant being monsters, then humanity would face whatever came as monsters. They would not surrender what made them human, no matter the cost. Admiral Sam Rodriguez stood in the command center watching the holographic display with growing dread. 2 months had passed since the Horizon returned from first contact with news that changed everything. Now those same aliens had come to Earth bringing war. The display showed hundreds of enemy ships arranged in perfect formations around Earth's solar system. Each ship was massive, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. They formed a complete circle around the sun, blocking every route in or out of human space. Sir? We count over 400 alien vessels, reported Captain Lisa Carter, who had transferred to the Defense Command after returning from the failed diplomatic mission. They're maintaining position just outside our defensive perimeter. Sam rubbed his tired eyes. Earth's entire defense fleet numbered only 60 ships, most of them converted cargo vessels hastily fitted with weapons. Against the alien armada, they might as well be throwing rocks at battleships. Have they made any demands? Sam asked. Dr. Amy Bell looked up from her analysis station. Amy had become Earth's leading expert on alien technology after studying the sensor data from the Horizon's encounter. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Same message over and over. They want complete surrender. The main screen switched to show the alien transmission. Fexithera appeared again, its form of light and shadow seeming to judge humanity from across space. Humans of Earth, you have been found guilty of being a plague upon the galaxy. We will not destroy you quickly as we would other threats. Instead, you will be allowed to understand the consequences of your monstrous nature. Surrender now and accept genetic modification, or watch your civilization slowly die. Sam clenched his fists. The aliens were not just threatening Earth, but every human colony and outpost in space. Mars, the asteroid mines, the research stations around Jupiter, all of them were trapped inside the alien blockade. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Hayes entered the command center carrying reports from across the solar system. Ben had been promoted after his communication work during first contact and now served as Sam's intelligence officer. Admiral, we're getting reports from all our outer colonies, Ben said grimly. The aliens are systematically destroying everything we have in space. They hit the mining station at Ceres 3 hours ago. No survivors. Amy pulled up the tactical display showing the alien attack pattern. They're being very precise. They're not just destroying our infrastructure, they're making sure we can't rebuild it. Every solar panel, every communication relay, every water recycling plant. They want us completely dependent on Earth. Sam studied the pattern. The aliens were not fighting a traditional war. They were slowly strangling humanity, cutting off all the resources that had allowed Earth to expand into space. Without the asteroid mines, Earth could not build new ships. Without the orbital factories, they could not produce advanced technology. Without the outer colonies, millions of people would have nowhere to go as Earth became overcrowded. How long can we hold out? Sam asked. Dr. Amy Bell ran calculations on her computer. If they maintain this blockade, Earth will face critical shortages within 6 months. Food, medical supplies, rare metals needed for technology. We'll start losing people to starvation and disease within a year. The weight of command pressed down on Sam's shoulders. Every decision he made would determine whether humanity survived or died out slowly, as the aliens intended. What about breaking the blockade? He asked. Ben shook his head. We've run every simulation. Even if we used every ship we have in one coordinated attack, We might take out maybe 10% of their fleet before they destroy us completely. It would be suicide. Maybe that's what they're counting on, Amy said quietly. They studied our minds during first contact. They know how humans think. They expect us to either surrender quickly or throw our lives away in a hopeless attack. Sam walked to the viewport and looked out at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from space, but he knew panic was spreading across every continent. The news of the alien blockade had leaked despite government efforts to keep it secret. Stock markets had crashed. Governments were falling. People were demanding answers that no one had. "Admiral, incoming priority message from the President," announced the communications officer. President Kate Young appeared on screen from her bunker beneath Washington. Her face showed the strain of leading humanity through its darkest hour. "Admiral Rodriguez, what are our options?" she asked without preamble. Sam straightened. "Limited, Madam President. We can surrender and let them change what makes us human. We can attack and die quickly, or we can try to find a third option." "What kind of third option?" "The aliens think they understand humans because they scanned our minds," Sam explained. "But they only saw our history, not our potential. They expect us to behave predictably. Maybe we need to become unpredictable." Amy looked up with interest. "You mean guerrilla warfare?" "Exactly. We can't fight them ship to ship. But we can make them pay a price for every small victory. We can show them that humanity doesn't break as easily as they think." Ben pulled up tactical maps. "We have supply depots hidden throughout the asteroid belt that the aliens might have missed. Small ships, modified civilians' vessels could launch hit-and-run attacks." "It would be dangerous," Amy warned. "The crews would have almost no chance of survival." Sam looked around the command center at the faces of men and women who had sworn to defend Earth. "I won't order anyone to take those missions. They'll have to be volunteers." "Sir," called out Lieutenant Danny Wright from across the room. Danny was young, barely out of the academy, but he had the kind of determined look Sam recognized in himself at that age. "I volunteer for the first mission." Before Sam could respond, a dozen other voices joined in. "I volunteer too, sir." The volunteers included Lisa Carter, Ben Hayes, and even Amy Bell, despite her role as a scientist. Sam felt something stir in his chest. The aliens had called humans monsters for their capacity for violence. Maybe they were right, but they had failed to understand that human violence always served human love. These people were willing to die not because they enjoyed killing, but because they loved their families, their planet, their species. "Very well," Sam said. "Dr. Bell, I want you to start developing unconventional weapons. Nothing the aliens will expect. Ben, organize volunteer crews and plan hit-and-run missions. Lisa, work with engineering to modify civilian ships for combat." As his staff dispersed to their tasks, Sam remained at the viewport looking out at Earth. The aliens had tried to judge humanity based on their past, calling them monsters who could never change, but maybe being monsters was exactly what humanity needed to be right now. The siege had begun, and humanity would respond the only way they knew how. They would fight, they would sacrifice, and they would never surrender. If the galaxy wanted to see human monsters, then monsters they would become. 18 months had passed since the alien blockade began, and Earth was dying slowly. Engineer Paul Davis worked in the underground factory beneath the ruins of Detroit, surrounded by the sound of machines building weapons the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens expected humans to fight like civilized beings, following rules of war that the Zephyrian Collective had established over thousands of years. Paul was making sure humanity would disappoint them. "How's the new design coming along?" asked Captain Nina Brooks as she entered the workshop. Nina had volunteered for the most dangerous missions against the blockade, leading attacks that the aliens considered impossible or insane. Paul wiped grease from his hands and pointed to the device on his workbench. "It looks like a medical supply container, but inside it's packed with enough nuclear material to crack a battleship in half. The aliens scan for weapons, but they respect medical neutrality. They won't expect this." Nina picked up the fake medical container and examined it carefully. "How many can you make?" "I can have 50 ready by next week," Paul replied. "But Nina, once we use these, there's no going back. The aliens will know we've broken their rules of civilized warfare. They'll call us monsters." "They already call us monsters," Nina said with a cold smile. "The difference is now we're going to act like it." Across the solar system, the siege continued to strangle humanity. The alien blockade had destroyed every human outpost beyond Earth's moon, Millions had died when the orbital cities fell. The asteroid mining colonies were gone. Mars was cut off and slowly running out of supplies. Earth itself was overcrowded and running short of everything needed to maintain a technological civilization. Dr. Luke Evans worked in his secret laboratory, hidden beneath the ruins of Atlanta. Before the war, Luke had been in prison for illegal biological research. Now the government had given him full resources to develop weapons that violated every treaty humanity had ever signed. The alien physiology has a weakness, Luke explained to Admiral Sam Rodriguez during a secure video call. Their nervous systems are extremely sensitive to certain chemical compounds. I can create a bioweapon that will target only them, leaving humans completely unharmed. Sam looked uncomfortable with the idea. Even in humanity's darkest hour, some weapons seemed too terrible to use. How effective would it be? One canister released in a ship's air system would kill every alien aboard within minutes, Luke said. It would be completely painless for them, but absolutely fatal. Can you mass produce it? I already have. I've made enough to equip every attack ship we have left. Sam closed his eyes for a moment. The aliens had forced this choice on humanity by refusing to see them as anything but monsters. Now humanity would become exactly what the aliens expected them to be. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Hayes led a squadron of modified civilian ships toward an alien supply convoy near Jupiter. The ships looked like ordinary cargo haulers but carried Nina's fake medical containers and Luke's biological weapons. Ben's crew consisted entirely of volunteers who knew this would likely be a one-way mission. Remember, we're playing by their rules until we get close, Ben said over the radio to his pilots. Act like civilians running supplies to Mars. When I give the signal, show them what human monsters really look like. The alien convoy consisted of 3 massive ships escorted by a dozen smaller patrol vessels. The aliens had grown careless after 18 months of easy victories against human forces. They expected the same desperate but predictable attacks they had been defeating for over a year. Unknown human vessels, you are in violation of the quarantine, came the alien transmission. Return to Earth immediately or be destroyed. Ben opened his communication channel and put fear in his voice. Please don't shoot. We're just trying to get medical supplies to Mars. There are sick children there who will die without these medicines. The aliens hesitated, exactly as Paul had predicted they would. Their rules of civilized warfare prevented them from destroying medical supplies, even during a blockade. After several minutes of debate among themselves, they agreed to inspect the cargo before allowing the ships to continue. Maintain current course and prepare for boarding, the alien commander ordered. This was exactly what Ben had hoped for. When the alien inspection teams beamed aboard the human ships, they found what appeared to be standard medical containers. The alien scanners confirmed the containers held medicine and supplies needed to treat sick. Humans, your cargo is acceptable, the alien inspector told Ben. You may proceed to Mars. But as the alien teams prepared to leave, Ben gave the signal his crews had been waiting for. Now, he said quietly into his radio. The fake medical containers exploded simultaneously across all 3 human ships. The nuclear devices had been designed specifically to breach alien ship hulls. The patrol vessels closest to the human ships were destroyed instantly. The larger ships were damaged but still functional. Before the aliens could respond, Ben's ships released Luke's bioweapon into the air systems of the surviving alien vessels. Within minutes, every alien aboard was dead. The attack succeeded beyond Ben's wildest hopes. 3 major alien ships and a dozen patrol vessels were completely destroyed. More importantly, the psychological impact spread quickly through the alien fleet. They used medical supplies as weapons, reported the alien commander, who investigated the wreckage to his superiors. They violated medical neutrality. They used biological weapons. These humans fight without honor or restraint. News of the attack reached Vexithara aboard the alien command ship. The Zephyrian leader had expected the siege to break human resistance within months. Instead, the humans were adapting and becoming more dangerous. They are becoming exactly what we said they were, Vexithara told the collective leadership. They embrace their monstrous nature instead of being ashamed of it. They use tactics we consider unthinkable. Back on Earth, Paul Davis was already working on even more disturbing weapons. He had studied the alien reaction to the medical container attack and realized that humanity's greatest advantage was the aliens' own sense of civilization. They have rules they won't break even when losing a war, Paul explained to his team. But we'll break any rule if it means survival. That makes us unpredictable. That makes us dangerous. Captain Nina Brooks prepared for her next mission, this time leading suicide attacks directly into the heart of the alien formation. Her volunteers knew they would not return, but they also knew their sacrifice would hurt the enemy in ways the aliens could not understand or predict. Dr. Luke Evans began work on psychological weapons designed to terrify aliens rather than kill them. If humanity was going to be seen as monsters, then Luke would make sure they were the most frightening monsters the galaxy had ever known. The siege continued, but something fundamental had changed. The aliens no longer saw humans as a species to be pitied and contained. Now they saw humans as something far more dangerous. Monsters who chose to embrace their monstrous nature, rather than be limited by it. For the first time since the blockade began, some alien ships started to retreat from their positions around Earth. Humanity had become exactly what their enemies called them, and the galaxy was beginning to fear what they had created. Major Rick Stone floated in the cramped cockpit of his converted mining ship, watching the massive alien command vessel grow larger through his viewport. 2 years had passed since the siege began, and humanity had learned to fight in ways the galaxy had never seen. Rick's mission was impossible by any reasonable standard, but humans had stopped caring about what was reasonable. Target acquired. He whispered into his radio to the team following behind him. Remember, we only get one chance at this. The alien ship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons and shields that could destroy Earth's entire remaining fleet. But Rick had noticed something during months of studying alien tactics. The bigger their ships, the more confident they became. Confidence made them careless. Dr. Grace Miller worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the hidden research station orbiting behind Earth's moon. Grace had been studying captured alien technology for months, trying to understand how beings who called themselves civilized could wage war so brutally against humanity. "I think I've figured out their weakness," Grace announced during the morning briefing with Admiral Sam Rodriguez. "Their entire civilization is built on avoiding conflict through overwhelming superiority. They've never faced an enemy willing to accept massive casualties to achieve victory." Sam leaned forward with interest. Grace had become their best hope for understanding how to defeat an enemy with superior technology and numbers. "What does that mean for our strategy?" Sam asked. "It means they're psychologically unprepared for the kind of war we're fighting," Grace explained. "Every time we do something they consider impossible or wasteful, it damages their morale more than losing ships damages ours." The alien collective was indeed struggling with concepts they had never encountered before. In the command ship, Vexithara met with military leaders from 12 different species to discuss the human problem. They destroyed an entire squadron yesterday using nothing but mining equipment, reported Commander Kethvar of the warrior species Velthari. Unlike most collective species, the Velthari had once been conquerors before joining the peaceful alliance. The human ships had no weapons, no armor, no shields. They simply flew directly into our vessels and exploded. Another alien commander shook his head in disbelief. "Such tactics are wasteful and primitive. No civilized species would throw away trained crews for such minimal gains." "But the gains are not minimal," Kethvar argued. "Each successful attack makes our crews more afraid. They know humans will do things we consider unthinkable. Fear is spreading through our ranks." Vexithara remained silent, considering the reports. The siege should have ended months ago with human surrender. Instead, humanity was adapting and evolving their tactics faster than the collective could respond. Rick Stone's mining ship approached the alien command vessel along with 9 other converted civilian craft. To alien sensors, they appeared to be a desperate evacuation fleet, carrying refugees from Earth's dying colonies. The aliens had seen similar groups before and usually allowed them to pass after inspection. "Human vessels. Prepare to be boarded for inspection," came the alien transmission. "Please don't hurt us," Rick replied, putting panic in his voice. "We're just trying to escape with our families. We have children aboard." The alien inspection teams beamed aboard Rick's ships and found exactly what they expected. Frightened civilians, crying children, elderly people, and desperate families fleeing the war. The ship's cargo holds contained personal belongings, family photographs, and medical supplies for the journey. What the aliens didn't detect was the modified nuclear reactor in each ship's engine room. Paul Davis had designed them to look exactly like standard civilian power sources until Rick activated the hidden controls. Inspection complete, the alien team leader reported. These vessels contain only refugees. No threat detected. As the inspection teams prepared to return to their ship, Rick made his move. Activate Operation Monster, he whispered into his communicator. The mining ship suddenly accelerated toward the alien command vessel at maximum speed. The aliens had seconds to realize what was happening before 10 modified nuclear reactors simultaneously overloaded and exploded directly against the command ship's hull. The explosions tore massive holes in the alien vessel. Atmosphere rushed out into space carrying debris and bodies. The ship's main weapons went offline. Its command center was destroyed. Most importantly, the psychological impact rippled through the entire alien fleet. Colonel Danny Wright watched the attack from his concealed position in the asteroid belt. Danny had been waiting for this moment to launch the largest coordinated strike humanity could manage. When Rick's ships destroyed the command vessel, Danny gave the signal for 50 hidden human ships to attack simultaneously across the solar system. The attacks came from everywhere at once. Modified cargo ships emerged from behind asteroids carrying nuclear weapons. Converted passenger liners rammed alien patrol vessels. Even small personal spacecraft loaded with explosives dove into alien formations like mechanical suicide bombers. Dr. Luke Evans had prepared special weapons for this moment. His biological agents spread through alien ships' air systems. His psychological warfare devices broadcast terrifying human screams and war cries that drove alien crews to panic. His chemical weapons created hallucinations that made aliens see human monsters everywhere. The coordinated attack achieved something no one had thought possible. For the first time since the siege began, major alien fleets retreated from their positions around Earth. Impossible, Vexthara said as it watched the tactical display. They're forcing our fleet to withdraw using nothing but converted civilian vessels and suicide tactics. Commander Kethvar studied the human attack patterns with growing respect. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before. They're fighting like they have nothing to lose. Because they don't, replied another alien commander. We've given them the choice between death and genetic modification. They've chosen to fight as themselves rather than live as something else. In the aftermath of the attack, humanity had achieved the impossible. They had broken the alien blockade not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer determination to remain human regardless of the cost. Captain Nina Brooks led the follow-up attacks that pushed alien forces even further from Earth. Her volunteer crews knew they were expendable, but they also knew their sacrifice was making it possible for humanity to survive. Dr. Grace Miller analyzed the retreating alien ships and made an incredible discovery. They're not just retreating tactically, she reported to Admiral Rodriguez. Their entire command structure is showing signs of psychological breakdown. They can't understand how to fight an enemy that embraces tactics they consider monstrous. The tide of war was turning, but not because humanity had become stronger. It was turning because humanity had become exactly what their enemies called them. They had embraced being monsters and turned their monstrous nature into their greatest weapon. The galaxy was learning that sometimes monsters were necessary, and humanity was teaching that lesson one impossible victory at a time. General Alex Turner stood before the holographic display showing every remaining human ship in the solar system. 3 years of siege had reduced Earth's once proud fleet to barely 30 functional vessels, but what they lacked in numbers they made up for in desperate determination. Today would decide whether humanity lived or died as a free species. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex addressed the mixed group of military officers and civilian volunteers who had gathered for the final briefing. Intelligence reports indicate the aliens are preparing for one last massive assault. They want to end this siege by destroying Earth completely. Dr. Helen Gray looked up from her communication station where she had been monitoring alien transmissions. Helen had become Earth's voice to the galaxy, broadcasting humanity's message of defiance to anyone who would listen. The alien fleet is larger than anything we've seen, Helen reported. Over 600 ships including their largest battleships. They're done playing games with us. Captain Chris Morgan stepped forward from the group of volunteer commanders. Chris had survived more impossible missions than anyone else in the human fleet and had volunteered to lead the final assault. What's our plan, General? Chris asked. Alex took a deep breath. We're going to attack their main fleet with everything we have. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can hold a gun. It's a suicide mission with one goal: Make the cost of victory so high that they'll think twice before attacking another species like us. The room fell silent as the reality sank in. This was not a plan for victory in any traditional sense. This was a plan to make humanity's death so costly that it would serve as a warning to the galaxy. Dr. Grace Miller had spent weeks studying the psychological profiles of different alien species within the collective. The key is the young Commander Kethvar, she explained. He's from a warrior species that joined the collective centuries ago. Unlike the others, he understands the concept of honorable death in battle. If we can make him see what we're really fighting for, he might be our way to peace. Meanwhile, in the alien command center, Commander Kethvar was having his own crisis of understanding. He had watched humans fight for 3 years using tactics that his own people had once used before joining the peaceful collective. They fight like my ancestors did, Kethvar told Vexithara during a private meeting. Not for conquest or glory, but for the right to exist as they choose to be. Vexithara's form flickered with annoyance. They fight like monsters. They use weapons we consider barbaric. They employ tactics we find repulsive. They are everything wrong with primitive species. Perhaps, Kethvar replied carefully, but they are also everything necessary for survival when faced with extinction. The final battle began at dawn Earth time, when the alien armada moved into attack formation around humanity's home planet. Alex Turner gave the order for humanity's last fleet to launch from hidden bases across the solar system. Captain Chris Morgan led the first wave in the modified destroyer UCS Defiance. The ship had been built from scavenged parts and carried enough nuclear weapons to destroy a small moon. Chris knew he would not survive the mission, but he also knew his sacrifice would mean something. All ships, this is Defiance, Chris broadcast to the human fleet. Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to make sure they remember us. The human ships charged directly into the alien formation using the same suicide tactics that had served them throughout the siege, but this time was different. This time they were not trying to achieve a limited objective. They were trying to teach the galaxy a lesson about the price of fighting humanity. Dr. Luke Evans had prepared his most terrifying weapons for this final battle. Chemical agents that caused alien hallucinations of human monsters. Biological weapons that targeted alien fear centers in their brains. Psychological warfare that broadcast the screams and war cries of every human who had died defending their species. The battle was chaos unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships rammed alien vessels at full speed. Nuclear weapons detonated inside alien formations. Suicide bombers flew directly into alien command centers without hesitation. But the most important moment came when Chris Morgan's ship broke through the alien defensive line and headed straight for the flagship carrying. Vexithara, human vessel, cease your attack, Vexithara transmitted. You cannot win. This is meaningless destruction. Chris opened a channel to reply and his voice was heard across both fleets. This isn't about winning. This is about showing you what it costs to try to destroy us. We are what we need to be. The UCS Defiance collided with the alien flagship, and both ships disappeared in a nuclear fireball that lit up the solar system. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from Earth's surface during daylight. In that moment, Commander Kethvar finally understood what he had been witnessing for 3 years. Humans were not fighting for conquest or glory or even traditional victory. They were fighting for something far more powerful, the right to remain themselves rather than become what others wanted them to be. Stop the attack, Kethvar ordered his fleet. What? Vexithara's voice came over the radio from an escape pod. Continue the assault. Destroy them completely. No, Kethvar replied firmly. Look at what we're doing. Look at what they're willing to sacrifice. We call them monsters, but what does that make us? Across the battlefield, other alien commanders began to see the same thing Kethvar had realized. The humans were not trying to destroy the alien fleet. They were trying to make the aliens understand the true cost of genocide. John and Mary Ross hugged their children in a shelter beneath New York as explosions lit up the sky above them. They had refused evacuation orders because they wanted to die on Earth, if humanity was going to die at all. But as they watched the battle through small windows, they saw something incredible happening. The alien ships were withdrawing. Dr. Helen Gray broadcast one final message to the galaxy from her bunker beneath Washington. This is Earth calling all civilized species. Today you have seen what happens when you try to force a species to choose between death and surrender. We chose to remain human. We chose to be monsters if that's what survival required. Remember this day and remember this choice. Commander Kethvar took command of the alien fleet as Vexthara was declared unfit for leadership by the Collective Council. His first act was to open communications with Earth. Humans of Earth, Kethvar transmitted. I am Commander Kethvar of the Velthari people. I speak for those in the Collective who understand what we have witnessed here. You have shown us something we had forgotten. Sometimes the galaxy needs monsters. Sometimes civilization requires beings willing to fight when fighting is necessary. General Alex Turner responded from Earth's command center. What are you saying? I am saying the siege is over. I am saying humanity has proven something we did not expect. You have shown that your monstrous nature serves a purpose. You fight not to destroy others but to preserve yourselves and those you love. 6 months later, Ambassador Jake Morrison found himself once again aboard a ship headed for alien space. But this time he was not going as a desperate representative of a doomed species. He was going as humanity's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. The Zephyrian Collective had voted to grant humanity full membership after extensive debate. The decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The galaxy had decided it needed monsters, beings willing to fight when peace was impossible, willing to sacrifice when sacrifice was necessary, and willing to hope when hope seemed foolish. At the signing ceremony, Commander Kethvar spoke for the warrior species within the collective. The humans taught us that civilization is not about avoiding conflict. True civilization is about choosing when to fight and what to fight for. They fought for the right to remain themselves. That is why they deserve to join us as equals. Years later, Jake Morrison would address mixed human-alien classes at the Galactic Military Academy. His words would become part of the official record of first contact between humanity and the collective. They called us monsters, Jake would tell his students, and perhaps they were right. But we learned that being monsters is not about cruelty or violence for its own sake. Being monsters means being willing to do whatever is necessary to protect what you love. Sometimes the galaxy needs monsters. Sometimes monsters are the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. The siege was over. Humanity had survived not by becoming what their enemies wanted them to be, but by proving that what made them different also made them necessary. They had been called monsters and had chosen to embrace that label, turning it from an insult into a badge of honor that the galaxy would remember forever.